Barrick Gold. Shares held, 12 million. Holding value, $337,320,000. Percent of portfolio, 0.15%. Warren Buffett is the farthest thing from a gold bug. It doesn't do anything but sit there and look at you, he's been known to say. But holding gold as an asset class isn't the same thing as investing in a gold miner such as Barrick Gold, currently at $25.86. True, mining stocks are sensitive to the price of whatever commodity they are digging out of the ground. But at least they produce something, as in cash flow. In the case of Barrick, it even pays a small dividend. Besides, Barrick has more going for it than gold. It also mines copper, which is used in just about everything. As such, it's a bet on a return to global growth. It wasn't that much of a stretch, then, when Buffett picked up 20.9 million shares in Barrick in the second quarter. However, it appears Buffett's patience for the position is paper-thin. Berkshire curbed BRK.B's holding by more than 40% just a quarter after it initiated its stake. The remaining position is a negligible holding accounting for just 0.15% of the portfolio's assets. Teva Pharmaceutical. Shares held, 42,789,295. Holding value, $385,531,000. Percent of portfolio, 0.22%. Berkshire Hathaway's move into Teva Pharmaceutical, currently at $9.63, during 2017's fourth quarter looked like a classic Warren Buffett value move at the time. The Israel-based drug manufacturer was out of favor, to put it mildly. A bloated balance sheet, mass layoffs and the looming expiration of drug patents had short sellers licking their chops. By the time Buffett stepped in, Teva shares were off about 70% from their mid-2015 peak. Berkshire then doubled his stake in Teva during the first quarter of 2018, when shares looked really cheap. They look cheaper now. Shares are off 44% since the start of Q2 2018 and trade at less than 4 times analysts' estimates for future earnings. Which is a fraction of the S&P 500's forward P. That's in part thanks to a big share slide in August. After the U.S. government sued Teva for allegedly defrauding Medicare to juice sales of its multiple sclerosis drug Copaxone. Berkshire trimmed its stake by 1% by Q1 and has stayed pat since then, leaving it with 3.9% ownership of the company. That makes it Teva's fourth largest shareholder. Globe Life. Shares held, 6,353,727. Holding value, $507,663,000. Percent of portfolio, 0.22%. Globe Life, currently at $94.26, known as Torchmark up until 2019, is a small holding for Berkshire Hathaway, but a natural Buffett stock. After all, it's a life and health insurance company, and various wholly owned insurance firms form the core of BRK.B's holdings. Berkshire Hathaway has owned shares in Globe Life Torchmark since early 2001. And while it's a boring company, it has quietly been a very good stock pick. Including dividends, GL has generated a total return of 544% since March 31, 2001, easily outdoing the S&P 500's 362% performance with dividends included. Berkshire Hathaway owns 6.0% of Globe Life's shares outstanding, which makes it the firm's third largest shareholder after Vanguard and BlackRock. Axalta Coating Systems. Shares held, 23,420,000. Holding value, $519,222,000. Percent of portfolio, 0.23%. Axalta Coating Systems, currently at $28.30, took a small trimming during the third quarter. Axalta, which makes industrial coatings and paints for building facades, pipelines and cars, joined the ranks of the Buffett stocks in 2015. When Berkshire Hathaway purchased 20 million shares in Axta from private equity firm Carlyle Group. The stake makes sense given that Buffett is a longtime fan of the paint industry. Berkshire Hathaway bought house paint maker Benjamin Moore in 2000. Berkshire remains Axalta's largest investor, holding 10% of the shares outstanding. The company, which makes industrial coatings and paints for building facades, pipelines and cars, is the belle of the ball when it comes to mergers and acquisition suitors. The company has rejected more than one buyout bid in the past, and analysts note that it's a perfect target for numerous global coatings firms. It'd also be a little easier to digest than it was at the start of the year. Axta shares remain down about 7% year to date. Synchrony Financial. Shares held, 20,128,000. Holding value, $526,750,000. Percent of portfolio, 0.23%. Synchrony Financial, currently at $31.11, jibes with Buffett's affection for credit card companies and banks. Synchrony, a major issuer of charge cards for retailers, was spun off of GE Capital in 2014. It's both a lender and a payments processor, like Buffett's beloved American Express, but it caters to customers who skew more toward the middle and lower end of the income scale. Berkshire initiated a position in SYF during the second quarter of 2017, paying an estimated price per share of $30.02. Since the end of Q2 2017, the stock has gained just 11%, versus a 60% total return for the S&P 500 in that same time frame. Buffett trimmed 3% of his stake in Q1 but left it alone in the second and third quarters. He now owns 3.5% of Synchrony Financial shares outstanding, which makes him the firm's 8th largest shareholder. Liberty Global. Shares held, Class A Class C, 18,010,000 7,346,968. Holding value, Class A Class C, $378,390,000 $150,870,000. Percent of portfolio, total, 0.24%. Liberty Global, represented via Class A, currently at $22.50, and Class C, currently at $21.85, shares, is another one of Berkshire's bets on communications and media companies whipped up by billionaire dealmaker John Malone. Liberty Global bills itself as the world's largest international TV and broadband company, with operations in 7 European countries. Berkshire's investment in the Class A shares dates to the fourth quarter of 2013. It picked up the Class C shares, which have no voting power, in the first quarter of 2014. Rumors had the company buying Univision for $9 billion, but CEO Mike Fry shot that down. That said, Liberty Global does plan to extend its international partnership with Netflix, NFLX. Even after unloading 1.3 million shares, or 6% of its stake, during Q3, Berkshire is the second largest holder of LTIC at 3.0% of shares outstanding. Meanwhile, it's the number 7 holder of LTIC at 1.2% after leaving that position untouched. RH. Shares held, 1,708,348. Holding value, $653,648,000. Percent of portfolio, 0.29%. Warren Buffett has seemingly found a winner in RH, currently at $407.79, which many readers know as Restoration Hardware. Berkshire, which already is positioned in home furnishings retail via its Nebraska Furniture Mart subsidiary, added more exposure to the space with his Q3 2019 entry into RH. Then made a considerable addition to his stake to close out the year. RH operates 107 retail and outlet stores across the US and Canada. It also owns Waterworks, a high-end bath and kitchen retailer with 15 showrooms. While brick-and-mortar retailers have struggled mightily over the past few years thanks in part to the rise of e-commerce, RH has found success catering to the upper crust. Indeed, at the end of March, RH posted record results across every key metric of our business. More recently, not only did the company's fiscal Q2 earnings announced in September clobber earnings estimates, but RH said it believed Americans would partake in elevated spending on the home through 2021. RH shares are now up more than 90% in 2020. Buffett typically doesn't comment on Berkshire Hathaway's holdings, and that's true for RH, so it's not certain exactly what attracted the Oracle of Omaha. It is possible this was a move made by Buffett Lieutenant Ed Weschler or Todd Combs. But the stake fits broadly with Buffett's worldview. Buffett stocks tend to be bets on America's growth, which is exactly what a bet on housing and housing-related industries is. Berkshire is now the fourth largest investor in the home retailer by virtue of owning about 8.8% of all RH shares outstanding. Store capital. Shares held, 24,415,168. Holding value, $669,708,000. Percent of portfolio, 0.29%. Berkshire's position in store capital, currently at $32.60, which it entered during the summer of 2017, was an unusual one. Real estate investment trusts, a way to invest in real estate without owning the actual assets, have never been big among Buffett stocks. Store invests in single-tenant properties including chain restaurants, supermarkets, drugstores and other retail, service and distribution facilities. That is to say, store is a bet on brick-and-mortar retail, which is thought to be in permanent decline. Buffett, however, spied value, and he spied it for quite some time. Store Capital CEO Christopher Folk told CNBC that Buffett studied the right for 3 years before taking his position. The Oracle of Omaha must have seen similar value rise in the company's February-March dip, which sent STOR shares off by roughly 65% from peak to trough. Because he bought 5.8 million shares, or an additional 31%, to bring his stake to 24.4 million shares yielding 5.5% at current prices. Good news for Buffett, STOR shares are up 95% since the March bottom. Berkshire now owns 9.6% of shares outstanding, making it Store Capital's third largest shareholder after Vanguard and BlackRock.